Hey folks, this is Matthew Zachary, and before we get to the show, I wanted to tell you about another show from Offscript Media called The Cancer Mavericks. It's an 8-part deep dive narrative into the very story of cancer survivorship and the movement that started in the United States 50 years ago. This is not a podcast about the disease of cancer. It's a podcast about the people who made it better for all of us. Please search for The Cancer Mavericks wherever you listen to your podcasts and follow so you don't miss an episode. Thank you.
Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hello and welcome to another episode of the FUMS podcast show. I appreciate you hanging out with me again. I want to remind you that I send out a great email newsletter every Tuesday called the FUMS 6-Pack that features the top 6 topics in MS from that week. It's full of clickable links to stories, articles, and research. All the latest happenings in MS. I curate it all for you. You just get to read the good stuff. Get on that email list at FUMSnow.com/getthescoop. Also wanted to remind you that we have a downloadable ebook called Bowel and Bladder Issues in MS by 2 pea-brains with potty mouths talking shit about MS, written by an incredible pelvic health physical therapist who's so smart and offers so many great solutions. And me, a true smartass, just adding humor to an otherwise humorless subject. Get yours today at FUMSnow.com/ebook. Okay, let's meet our guest for today. She's a returning guest and one of my absolute favorites, Alene Brennan. She's a certified functional nutritional counselor and chef, specializing in the WALS protocol. Diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2016, Alene knows firsthand what it's like to live and rise above a chronic illness and debilitating migraines. Alene now coaches individuals from around the world to manage autoimmune diseases through diet and lifestyle. She's been featured in USA Today, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Mind Body Green, on Fox News, and right here on the FUMS podcast show several times. So welcome back, my friend.
Oh, wonderful. It's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I absolutely love the FUMS community.
Yay! And we love you. And if you're just listening, of course you can't see, but, and she's sitting down so you wouldn't be able to see if you were on video, but she is 9 months pregnant. I mean, like, due any second. So I feel like I should talk quickly with this interview, just in case.
I could only be so lucky.
Yeah, right. I bet you are ready to go, sister. I remember those days. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've had such a great experience with pregnancy, though. That's huge. And most of us with MS feel good during pregnancy, which is, you know, a nod to the research they're doing on estrogen. So
yeah, absolutely.
Let's figure this stuff out. So I always said if it didn't result in another child, I could be pregnant forever. That's how good I felt. But 2 is enough, and I'm too old now for any more kids. So anyway, all right, I digress. Let's first establish that you do have MS and migraines, and you've addressed them with an integrative approach, including nutrition and lifestyle. So why don't you share that background with everyone first?
Yeah. So my health journey really started with migraines at a very young age, as early as elementary school, which that's really early to be getting debilitating migraines. And they kind of weren't the obvious answer at that time, but you know, they do all the tests and then they come to the conclusion of it's just migraines. Right. So initially I was on a rainbow of medication, and I will come out of the gate saying there's a place in this world for medicine and it can serve us well in a lot of situations. But what I was finding is that it wasn't resolving the migraines. Like the migraines were still coming and they weren't always getting me out of a debilitating migraine. So I continued my search a little bit more of thinking, well, there's got to be something else I can do. Yeah. And I thankfully grew up in a house where being proactive with your health was very much encouraged through diet, through exercise, through, vitamins. My dad was even taking me to like Reiki specialists.
Wow. Very forward thinking parents you had. That's great. That's great.
And it really was an appointment that I had with my neurologist at the time where he said, oh, by the way, here's a list of foods that may trigger migraines. And it was just this sigh of like, well, wait a minute, what's this? Oh, by the way.
Right.
And I looked at the list and it looked like an inventory list of the grocery store. And I remember looking back and saying, okay, what can I eat?
Yeah, right.
And I got a blank stare.
Oh,
and I thought, okay, so this is a journey. If I choose to take, I'm going to be on my own with it. But I decided to give it a try. So I eliminated a lot of the common triggers. And in time, I don't want to suggest that it was overnight, but in time, the migraines became less frequent and less debilitating. And then, of course, the fewer you get, the less likely you are to get another one.
Right.
So this really opened my eyes to the experience of how food affects your health. So then fast forward many years when I was in my mid-30s, when I got diagnosed with MS.
Lucky gal.
Oh, aren't I the lucky one?
Yeah, you're an overachiever.
Now learned that migraines can often be a common, I'll say, symptom. I don't want to say prerequisite or requirement, but definitely
part of the fun, part of the party of MS. Yeah,
it's true. Common before an MS diagnosis. So, so when I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS in 2016, I took an integrative approach, and I knew because of the experience I had with diet and lifestyle that I wanted that to be part of my MS journey. And it has proven to be so incredibly helpful with managing the symptoms. There's no cure for MS. So it's not to suggest that it's going to cure it. But if it can change how I feel on a day-to-day basis and help me live life the way that I want to, that's what matters.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. So I'm always so inspired whenever you're here. I just want to go clean out all the junk food out of my... But I don't. But anyway, okay. So this is such great timing. You're here today to talk about not compromising our healthy habits in the upcoming holiday season. And it is such perfect timing because we are, again, heading into the holiday season when even the best intentioned can make some missteps in their nutritional path, right? In other words, a lot of us really freaking blow it around the holidays and eat a lot of junky shit and feel like crap. And you're going to help us with that. So let's jump in. Where do we start in preparing for this?
Yeah. So it's very true. I mean, let's face it, changing the food on your plate or the snacks that you're having throughout the day, changing the food that you're having on a day-to-day basis is hard because it can be hard because it's so much more, it's about so much more than just the food, right? Like there's habits involved, there's emotions, there's traditions, there's like all these things wrapped up in food. And then add the holidays in, right? All of these decadent treats. It's the happiest time of year. And we see everybody enjoying all of these things.
Fat and happy.
And, we want to enjoy it too.
Yes.
We want to be part of that experience. And we never want to feel like we are being excluded from something or even punished from something because of a diagnosis. And that's how it can feel sometimes like, oh, I have MS and I have to deal with all of the symptoms of MS. And then on top of it, I can't eat the things that I want to during the holidays. Like that can be really heavy, but that's real. It's real and it's raw.
Yeah.
So what I think is most important as we go into the holiday season is to remind ourselves of why we are choosing to eat healthier, why we are choosing to use diet and lifestyle to support our health. And ultimately, it's about more than just being quote unquote healthy. We all want to be healthy, but what do you want your health for? And I know for me, one of the big things was always I wanted to be an active mom. And it wasn't until I was 40 years old that I was married and, going down that journey. But that was always kind of in the back of my mind that I want to be an active mom. And that's not something that I can just show up for in a day and have a flip of a switch.
Right.
So for some people, they want to travel to national parks. For other people, it can be different for each person.
Yeah.
But what do you want your health for?
Yeah.
And
what's your why?
What's your why? And it sounds corny. Like I kind of I roll my eyes even as I say it, because it's all right, I get it, but really these cinnamon buns look good.
Amen, sister, and smell like heaven on a plate.
Amazing.
Yes.
But when you're in that moment and you can say, I can eat whatever I want, because there's no one's going to stop you.
Right.
You are an adult and you can choose what you want, but you're choosing your why over that pie or over whatever it is. And that
choose your why over that pie. I love it. It's a new mantra.
I didn't even mean that. That feels very different. It feels more empowering than I can't have that. You're saying I could have that, but I'm choosing this instead.
It is empowering. I'm making the decision. It's not being done to me. Right. Yeah.
And it's important to remember, here's my intention for the holiday season. And it's important to remember that we are the only ones that have to live in our body. Mm-hmm. So we are the ones that live with the outcome of what we put in our body. Mm-hmm. And again, that's could be viewed as punishment, but it also could be viewed as empowering. Right. I'm choosing to put these good foods in, and I don't care if somebody else is tempting me or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm going to feel better tomorrow and the next day because of these choices. True. So when we have that mindset, it sets a different tone for it.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm assuming that then you have some eat this instead of that.
Yeah, so I primarily follow the Wahls protocol. And if you're not familiar with that, Dr. Terry Wahls has developed, I know that you are, Kathy, but if any of the listeners here are not familiar with it, Dr. Terry Wahls developed a nutrition protocol, and it's eliminating the inflammatory foods and filling your plate with the nutrient-dense foods. So the ultimate goal is to soothe the inflammation, heal the gut, and then nourish your body with all of these nutrient-dense foods that can help support building better health in your body. So it is eliminating things like the gluten, the dairy, and all of the things that are sugar. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Then focusing on getting the more nutrient dense. And so she has it organized in the sense of 9 cups of vegetables every single day, which is wait a minute, what?
Girl, can we talk about that for a second? So I'm very familiar with the Wahls protocol, and so many people have had realized some great successes with it. And certainly it just makes sense, right? You're putting in good for you foods and that which has fiber and everything that we know. Yeah. We know this stuff, right? It makes sense. But 9 cups a day. So I've interviewed her. I'll put a link to the episode too in here if you to hear that. So she's phenomenal, and I have interviewed her, and I said the same damn thing to her. I said 9 fucking cups of vegetables. Are you kidding me? I tried. I really, truly tried. And it just was it was untenable for me. Yeah. And I loved this because she said, well, whatever she is, she's very tall, apparently. She said, I'm this. Here's my height. Here's my weight. That's not you. So it doesn't she said, it's not that prescriptive. It's 9 cups a day for me. That might not be right for you. You can kind of shift these things around. So I always try and share that story whenever we're talking about Wahls stuff, because when I first read that, and I tried 9, I really tried hard. But it was so good that she said it's not that prescriptive. You do have to take things into consideration, including your lifestyle, and including you can't be unhappy either. So, you got to. So anyway, I digress a bit because the 9 cups of veggies was holy. Hell, you got to be kidding me.
It's true. And that's a lot of what I do with my coaching practice is I work with individuals to try and figure out, okay, here's the therapeutic plan that she's outlined for us. Now let's talk about what's going to make sense for you with your lifestyle, your taste buds, your day-to-day routine, so that we can personalize it. So yeah, maybe 9 cups is like way over the top for you.
Yeah.
So we figure out what is manageable for you and how can you get them in a way that you actually enjoy them.
Yeah, right. That's huge too. And, we touched just very briefly on sugar, but sugar is such a huge culprit for me personally. I know for an awful lot of people. I mean, it is addictive and it is in freaking everything. It's unbelievable. I read one time how many different names there are for sugar, which pisses me off because it's so confusing. Just call it freaking sugar. Okay, I'm getting on my high horse again. Pisses me off though, because it seems very, they're hiding that. Anyway, but particularly around the holidays, I think of the holidays and I think of baking with my daughters. It's ritual, it's tradition, and it's yummy. So what do you tell people that want, that's our tradition? My kids know they're coming home from college this year and we're going to have baking day. So how do I still have baking day, but I'm not like adding to my addiction?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you've labeled it 100% spot on. It is an addiction. And I say that in the sense that like sugar has been infused in so many different products that it's frustrating because it's in like ketchup and salad dressings and marinades and things that like you wouldn't expect.
Right.
Yes. Things you wouldn't expect it to be in. And that does create a craving and an addiction. So it is important to recognize that to a certain extent, it's not our fault. Like, yes, we know that when we're eating like baked goods, that's a different story, but it is in a lot of things. And it can make an incredible difference in energy, in brain fog, and inflammation. So there are ways that the payoff is good, but the route to get there can be hard. So especially during the holidays. Yeah. So I think from a tradition perspective, there's a couple different things that you can do. Certainly you can find some, I'll say allergy-friendly alternatives so that you're still getting that experience. So you're making new traditions of, okay, we're still going to have our baking day, but we're going to try out some new recipes. And even if, say, your daughters are coming home from college and they have their favorites and they're like, Mom, please don't mess with sugar cookies. Like,
I know it. I know.
Perfect as is.
Exactly the ones my girls would say. Yes. Got it.
Don't touch these.
Yep. Don't touch them, Mom. Right.
So maybe you leave those as is, but maybe you decide, here's a new recipe that I want to try out. And it has a natural sweetener in it, or there's gluten-free flours to it, because now there are so many options and they taste really good.
Yeah.
They taste good. So you're not having to compromise, but it allows you to still have that experience because that is a tradition you have with your daughters and you want to maintain that.
I do.
But maybe you're just adding one new recipe in and that becomes then your batch of cookies.
New tradition. I stick with that. Yeah. I like that.
So that you still get to experience it, but not compromise your health there.
Right. That's good. Plus then I'm modeling good behavior for my girls too. Right. And I'll share my cookies, my healthy cookies with you.
And it's interesting because a lot of times, I know I experience this. I'll make something that is allergy friendly. And then there's always the curious nibblers who come by and they're like, oh, let me try that. That actually looks good. And they try to, oh my gosh, like I would eat these. And I'm like, okay, no.
Those are mine, back the hell off. Right. The doors to the Patients Getting Paid membership community are now wide open. This is a community of people with chronic illness learning to find and create flexible, remote work that accommodates their health. I call us chronicpreneurs. There are trainings, coaching calls, networking opportunities, co-workings, and a ton of resources. Want to take better care of yourself and still generate an income? Join us at patientsgettingpaid.com. You mentioned gluten. This is something we know is inflammatory, right? Even if you don't have celiac disease, we should all, I think, steer clear of it. So I say it like that. I'm timid on saying that because I have been told that by a neurologist that I have great respect for. I've also heard from another neurologist that I have great respect for. If you don't have celiac, don't worry about it. It's just a non-entity for you then. What? This is so confusing. Can't they just tell us what to eat and what not to eat?
Make it cut and dry, black and white. Like just make this simple. Whatever it is, I'll do it. But just tell me.
And everybody freaking agree on it, would you?
Yes. So gluten, if any of the listeners are not familiar, it's a protein that's found in a lot of the breads, pastas, baked goods. Again, we go back to all the good stuff. The good stuff there. Yeah. And if somebody has celiac, what it does is it strips the lining of their small intestines, the little microvilli, and they are what help to absorb all of the nutrients of the food that you're eating and send it out to the cells. So for somebody who has celiac, there's no medication, but going on a gluten-free diet is incredibly effective. Like that's their therapeutic approach. Yeah. Because once you've cut it out completely from the diet, those little microvilli grow back and they're back to, like a relatively normal lifestyle. So the question then becomes, as you're raising, well, if I don't have celiac, why is gluten such a big deal? Yeah. And the reason why it has become under the spotlight is because even if it's not destroying those microvilli there, it can be aggravating the lining of your gut. And again, that's where we absorb a lot of our nutrients. And if that's happening, if the lining of your gut, your digestive system is compromised, undigested food particles can start to get into the bloodstream and create inflammation throughout the entire body. So, and Dr. Wall, yes, exactly. And many autoimmune leaders have said that that's kind of a one of the earliest triggers of the autoimmune response, that we may not necessarily feel like doubled over in pain. Very few people have an immediate reaction to gluten. But later on, they start to feel like over time, like, why am I so bloated? Why am I so tired? Why do I have headaches and brain fog? And you don't think to connect that, one, with the food that you're eating, but especially with something like whole wheat bread. Like, what do you mean? Whole wheat bread's good, I thought. Right. So what I would say to somebody who was kind of questioning it, like you're experiencing of like, wait a minute, I have two experts whose opinion I value incredibly, and they're saying completely opposite things. Yeah. What I think can be helpful is find out what is right for you. So try it out, eliminate it for at least 30 days. If you can do 3 months, that would be ideal. And based on what I've experienced and seen with the clients that I've worked with, when they eliminate it from their diet, they are floored at how much better they feel. Even the ones who go into it resistant, they're like, Alene, I don't have an issue with gluten. And I'm like, okay, like, are you open to trying it out? Right.
So I'll do this for you, but I'm sure it's not going to be anything. It's not going to help me.
And then next thing you know, they come back and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea how bad I was feeling until I felt this good. And yes, I miss the stuff that gluten had in it, but I don't have the temptation because feeling this good like now, this is how I want to feel moving forward. So that's my motivation to keep this going.
Yeah. So this feels better than gluten tastes.
Yes.
In other words, well, I just, as you were sharing, the types of symptoms, let's say, of whether celiac or gluten sensitivity, let's call it. I wrote down my daughter Reagan's name because, boy, you just described her. And we've tried a lot of different things, but it hadn't occurred to me to try that. So I'm going to say thank you. She's not going to say thank you. She's going to be pissed off, man. She's coming home thinking we're going to bake and everything. We're going to have to bake with gluten-free flour. I've done that before. I did that for my older child years ago. We tried it for a summer and it didn't really make a difference for her, but that's how we knew. We tried it for 3 months and it did not affect her. But for this kid, we're going to have to try it again. So she's going to be pissed at you, but thank you. I'll say thank you.
Hello there, friends. It's Matthew Zachary, and I'm excited to tell you about a great new podcast called Healthy Communities News, presented by CVS Health. Every month, host Melissa Egan engages one-on-one interviews with community leaders from across the country who are tackling the factors outside of the doctor's office that impact health, wellness, and access to high-quality healthcare for everyone. You'll hear about UNCF's efforts to train more Black doctors, and you'll visit a clinic that has served downtown Houston for more than a century. You'll meet the people who hope to eradicate HIV transmission by 2030 and learn about the pandemic successes of a youth services clinic in Florida. Each episode profiles leaders who refuse to back down to local challenges. Healthy Communities News from CVS Health is available wherever you find new podcasts. New episodes appear every month and are available in both audio and video formats. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy today.
Let me ask you too about plant-based diets, because that seems to be like, I don't want to say all the rage, but there are a lot more people now that are really kind of talking about plant-based diets and touting them as kind of the answer. And I know, obviously, Wall's protocol, talks a lot about veggies, as we talked about those nine cups, but she has some pretty intense meat requirements in that protocol too. So what's the stance on plant-based?
Yeah. So I think plant-based can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. And if for somebody who is just saying, I'm going to go vegetarian or vegan, and they don't have a structured approach to it, it's not any more health beneficial than maybe what they were having before, because you can have a highly processed plant-based diet. There's a lot of soy alternatives and all these different things. And what I have seen over the years in nutrition is that many of the people who just kind of like haphazardly go into a plant-based diet are not getting the appropriate balance of protein. And they tend to have incredibly intense sugar cravings. And they find themselves eating more sugar than they typically would. So that's a reflection of not getting enough protein in there. So that's one thing, is that if you choose a plant-based diet and it's, a personal decision, what works best for each person, making sure that you are getting the appropriate balance of nutrients in there. And not going too heavy on the plant-based processed foods, and especially being mindful of soy. 90% of soy in the US is genetically modified. So I think that, so that's the one approach to it. The other way to look at it is if you are looking at it from the perspective of, I want to get more veggies and some fruit on my plate, well, then yes, absolutely. And I would even say that's kind of a great approach to take from an autoimmune perspective. Yeah. Because the more you focus on what you're adding to your plate, the less room there is for the other stuff that's not nutrient dense. So if I'm focusing on, okay, I want to get more plants on my plate here, then you start focusing on maybe some cauliflower rice, or you get some mashed cauliflower or sweet potatoes. Like there's a lot of different things that you can put on there other than steamed broccoli. It's not steamed broccoli and raw carrots all day, every day. There's a lot of good things that you can make. And then you really start to appreciate the flavors of those foods. Your body actually starts to crave them. What?
Yeah, that is kind of shocking. And isn't it like after about 21 days is when you really start seeing that? Isn't that correct?
Yeah. And your taste buds change. So you start to really crave those foods, and then you start to feel the benefits of it. Yeah. So I am in support of at least a primarily plant-based diet. I personally have found that I need animal protein in my diet. I just feel better from it. Energy wise, my blood sugar levels are balanced much better. And then there's also a lot of nutrients that we get from animal protein that we can't get from exclusively plants that help with our healing. So I think that if you're focusing primarily on plants, yes, add them to the plate, and then decide if that animal protein does have some space on the plate for you as well.
I like it. And I just wrote down my other daughter's name, Maggie May, when you were talking about this, because she is a, what is she? Pescatarian. So she'll eat, she'll eat seafood and fish and veggies. Yep. And, first blush, that sounds great. But everything you just described there, especially with this intensified sugar cravings, describes her. So I'm going to talk to her now about that. I'm going to make my kids sit down and listen to this. They're just going to be so excited. And you know what? My kids, their very first semi-solid food that I gave them was tofu. So I have been pushing soy on my kids for a very long time. And what you just told me was 90% of soy in the U.S. is genetically modified. So interesting. I have some cleanup to do in my life, apparently. Damn it.
Are we still happy we organized this podcast?
Right? I might just delete this and not post it. Can you, this is such a Kathy Reagan Young question. Can you balance out eating like shit by exercising more? You see how I'm negotiating this?
Love it. So, if you're looking at it from a calorie in, calorie out perspective, yeah, exercise is going to help burn more calories. But if we're looking from a therapeutic perspective and using food as a form of medicine to manage the symptoms of MS, fatigue, brain fog, pain, all of the different things, exercise isn't going to do anything to counterbalance the gluten that you're having in your diet, for example. Because it's not about the calories in, calories out. It's about how your body is responding to those foods, like what effect those foods are having on your body. And quite honestly, as we think about the holiday season, it's a busy time of year. It's an emotional time of year, good and bad. And sometimes this can be a time when we actually may need to shift our exercise to be a little bit more restorative. So I know that I really do enjoy working out.
What is wrong with you? No, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? It's what I think when people say that they enjoy working out. No, good for you. I wish I could. Maybe one day I will when I grow up. But
I look at it like when I was a kid, I was a gymnast, and that's how I kind of look at yoga almost. Like that kind of allows me to relive those days.
Yeah.
So I try to make it fun. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I feel like during the holiday season, we may need to give ourselves permission to not over exercise or focus too much on that and focus on something like a walk outside if the temperature allows, or some good stretching of yoga. And it is kind of counter
intuitive.
Yes, to what we would typically think during the holidays of I'm eating more, let me exercise more.
Right.
So if we can kind of look at it from the perspective of let me put some good foods in my body, and then let me continue that self-care with an appropriate level of exercise for the energy that I have.
Well, I like what you just said about thinking in terms of this, as self-care. And making better choices in terms of nutrient dense foods and there's a lot to be said for mindfully eating. And I think just stuffing food in, which I have been really guilty of.
Oh, you and me both. I'm part of this too.
Totally different than when you really think about, okay, I am gifting myself with this food, and this is going to maybe decrease my inflammation, which in turn I'll have less migraines, or maybe I'll have more energy for, that Christmas party or whatever it is. I think really thinking it through and looking at it, like you just said, that just clicked with me that, it truly is self-care. We are all talking about self-care and how we need more self-care. Well, you can participate in self-care 3 times a day or more.
Yeah.
With your eating, and really be more mindful about it and not just like shove something in there. I'm talking to you, Kathy. I tend to do that.
When you're focusing on mindful eating, of just being more present and paying attention to the food that you're having, you enjoy the food far more. I mean, I think every single one of us can identify sitting down in front of the TV just like you have your bag of popcorn or cookies or chips or like whatever it is. And the movie, right. Yeah. All of the above. And let's add some ice cream in there too. Yeah. And then the show is over, the movie's over, and you look down and you're like,
what happened?
So this bag was full and now it's empty. And it's disappointing and frustrating because you're like, I don't even remember
enjoy
eating
it.
this.
Yeah. Right.
So if you can take the time, especially during the holidays, to enjoy the food more, pay attention to the food that you're eating more, then you're going to enjoy it, and not necessarily just kind of like, be distracted and kind of, be absent.
Mindless eating. Yes. I have tried this on occasion, and I need to get back to it because it really was illuminating to me when I tried the 5 senses while I ate. So, I would look at it and really appreciate the look of it and where did it come from, and smell it and taste it. I could listen to it if I was crunching, I guess, and feel it, all of that. And it took me longer, which I think is a good thing, rushing through food. I've heard before that you eat something and it takes 20 minutes for your brain to recognize that your stomach's full. Like there's stuff in there already. And you could be in that 20 minutes just shoving stuff into your point as we're watching a movie and eating all that crap. So when I've done this and I've really paid attention to what it is that I'm eating and I've really been grateful for it, it slows me way down and I recognize when I'm full, so I'm not overeating. So it really does have a lot of benefits. You just have to commit to it, right? And I love that you said it was self-care. That really, that resonates with me. And I like it.
Feels different. It feels different because then it feels like you're taking care of yourself instead of here are rules that I need to follow.
Right.
It's like you had said, like, I want to feel good for this holiday party that's coming up. What can I do for myself that will support me in showing up the way that I want to feel there? Right.
That and I also love that you're not cutting off my rituals and the fun that I look forward to, that baking day with my girls. That was something I really wanted to ask you about because that's huge for me. But it's also in recognition of what it is, which is like crap. We're just making crap. Lots of sugar there. So I love the idea of switch it up. Maybe each kid can keep one of the cookies that they really love, but switch it up and let's try something that is a little more healthful. I love that. That's another gift we can give ourselves during the holidays, right? Just take better care of ourselves. I love it. I've learned so much. Once again, I always learn so much from you, Alene. I so appreciate you being here. You're interesting and I learn a lot and it's just really motivating to me. I mean, I eat really well for another couple of days after we talk. I need to come and get some coaching. That'll keep me on the path, I think.
There you go.
So you're just a delight. And as I said, I always learn something. I hope you'll come back again. Not soon because you're going to be very busy. In a couple of weeks, you're popping. Or hopefully sooner. At least we made it through this. Woo! Thank you so much. Woo! Congrats on that, baby. I wish you a very fast and minimally painful birth. I hope it goes quick and you blink and the baby's here. You're where you want to be when you give birth. Anyway, tell everyone where they can find you and learn more about working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a lot of information and free resources on my website, which is less farm with a PH, moretable.com.
Love it. I love that. I love that.
It's a little bit of a mouthful, but when you realize like less farm, as like the pharmaceuticals, more table.
Love it.
Yeah. So less farm, more table.com. And I'm also active on Instagram. So you can, I'd love if you have any follow-up questions or whatever it is, send me a DM over there. I'm again, less farm, more table. That would be a great place to reach me. And yeah, I always love being part of the FUMS community and being on the podcast here where we get an opportunity to just chat it out.
I know. And I learned so much. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And you'll remember this part from your last appearances here. We here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. If you would be so kind as to lead us in our salute to the bastard on 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
Rock on, sister. That was a good one. Thanks, Alene. All my best to you and this baby, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Kathy.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.